OKS Youth Ministers talk about youth ministry. I'm Michael Deese, and I'm joined by Hunter Puckett and Jeremy Crow. How are you guys?
It's weird not being mentioned last, I will say that.
Yeah.
I've always thought it was in favoritism. I feel like everybody knows that you like Jeremy more than me, but...
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
It's exactly what it is.
It's me, Jeremy, and then Hunter is last.
I'm just here.
Yeah.
I am okay with that order of things.
I'm number one because I'm the best. And then it's Jeremy because I know Jeremy best. And then it's you because I know you the least.
Or it's me just because it's the last.
Or it could just be that...
But the first will be last. And the last.
Hey, I do want to give a shout out to Eric Cheney. Today is his birthday.
Hey, happy birthday.
Not
Eric.
when this episode
it will not be
airs.
his birthday when this airs. But right now, while we're recording, it is Eazy-E's birthday.
February 18th.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Happy birthday.
Eric Cheney.
And we'll sing it now.
Happy birthday.
I just wanted to see if y'all would jump in.
I knew nobody was going to jump in. I just had to do it anyways.
Happy birthday to you.
So to continue our discipleship series, we are going to discuss...
Discipling through service.
There we go.
I didn't know if I was going to say service. You were going to do like a little chain.
Discipling through.
All right, so on today's episode, we're talking about discipling through service. And Jeremy, what does that look like for you?
So one of the things that I think is integral to what we do in youth ministry is giving opportunity for students to be servants of others and kind of shaping a mentality of servant-mindedness amongst teenagers. So that looks like a lot of different things, right? It might look like little small local things that we do in our community, or it might look like just things that we do from Sunday to Sunday for members in our own church body and our congregations. It might look like traveling long-range trips, overseas or across the country, or it might just look like going to a local community center and doing some type of service thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of different... That's one of the fun things about service is it's so broad.
Yes.
You can serve in any way at all. You can even say reading your Bible is service, because it's going to make you a better person and make you a better Christian. So you're going to serve. You're going to be more willing to serve in other capacities in other ways. Any amount of thing that's going to be a self-growth, self-help, or something like that can be considered service, in my opinion. What do you guys think on that?
I like it. It can be as easy or as difficult as you want to make it. I don't mean difficult in a bad way, but as easy as in writing a card to somebody.
Yeah.
Or as difficult as planning an entire week of work camp and making sure everything goes smoothly and every house gets done and dealing with the issues that come with that.
Or driving to El Salvador and...
I don't know about driving, but...
You can drive there.
You can.
But it would be tough, but you can do it.
I will be flying. You can drive. So
I do think that... service connects students to what it means to really, truly be a disciple of Jesus. And so Mark 10:45 says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to serve or to..."
There we go. No.
Mark 10:45 said, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as ransom for many." And if we're going to call kids to this idea of following after Jesus, and we're going to communicate that that's what they're supposed to be about, service is absolutely a part of that. And so we have to say, hey, we are called to be servants of others because the one who calls us was he himself a servant.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that the last living thing that Jesus did before he went to the garden and prayed, but before he was arrested and everything, was service. And it wasn't to just his best friends and all that. It was to the man who was going to literally get him killed, who caused so much anxiety and so much grief for Jesus. And still he knew, I'm going to serve even the least of these, we have that, the parable, anything that you've done for the least of these, you've done it for me. And so this idea of service is talked about in the Bible constantly. Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's an action that it's calling us to do. Be nice to people and treat people how you want to be treated. Serve people the way you want to be served.
We follow Jesus washing the feet of the disciples you just mentioned with I'm the vine, you're the branches. You're who goes out and does the things that are coming from the Father through me.
Yeah. Service is the big thing that the world sees while we're doing. They see us being servants, and they are all about when the church is doing service things in the open in front of everyone and trying to make a difference in their communities. And so service is extremely important to our ministries. What are some things that you guys are doing in your ministries or in past ministries that you found very effective and everything in this idea of being a servant?
On the first Friday of each month, and now we do the first and second Friday of each month, we do what's called a backpack program. And we put together a backpack. It's just food in a Walmart bag, basically. But the kids put it together. We wrap it up, and we end up taking it to, I believe, Eastmead Elementary School in Decatur. And we take it over there, and they pass it out to the kids who most likely will not have food for the entire weekend. And it's something in the beginning, I've always enjoyed it. In the beginning, I felt like it was a lot. Now we're getting into a groove of it. Now we've picked up an extra week of doing it. But what's really cool is after church on that Wednesday night before, all of the kids, I don't mean just the youth group, I mean all of the kids love coming to that section that we put all the bags together. They put them all together. We pick up the trash, and then at the end, it's free for all on whatever food is left. And usually I'll get candy, and there'll be like a bunch of candy left over, something like that. But the kids absolutely love it. And it's something that's very easy, that maybe they don't really think of that as a service opportunity, but just something that they're doing that's good in their everyday life.
We do a big Christmas Day. On Christmas Day, we have this thing where we all come together and we get these boxed lunches and groceries and stuff, and we go out into our community and hand those out. I love that. Where I was before, we did a thing that they called Pack-a-Sack, and that was on Thanksgiving. We would go up on that weekend before Thanksgiving, and we would pack all of these things and give groceries, and it came with a little voucher for a free ham or a free turkey, and we would hand those out to the people in the community that Saturday before Thanksgiving, and it was a big deal. I mean, I think we gave over like 600 different packs of groceries one year, and so those are some fun things, and getting our kids involved in that, where they're putting the stickers on the things with all the information, and they're helping pack those sacks, and they're doing, that's a really cool deal.
When it's great reach for the church. And if a church is looking for something that they want to do, I want to mention something we're doing here soon, April 5th, is Walk for Water.
Yeah.
Something that's very beneficial to everybody, the community, the churches, but also where the wells are being dug. And if you want more information on Walk for Water, you can contact Robert Gwynn. We'll put his information in the description of the episode. But he will be a contact for you. I think he's the head of our area in North Alabama, but I'm sure he has contacts for everybody else as well if you're wanting to get into that.
So let me say, for us, I don't have like a set thing that we do every single month. It's the same every month, but it's really more about like finding specific things that tie with certain times of the year, right?
That's what we do.
You think about like, at Christmas time, we do the share tree thing. And so our students, get a couple of names off the tree and they go, shop for gifts. Or at Thanksgiving, we help, collect food and deliver, to one of the local schools, things like that, the things that kind of play around or tie around certain opportunities during the year. But let me ask this, how important in discipling students through service, how important is getting kids out of their normalcy and their comfort area to you?
How difficult is it?
Well, how much does that factor? How does that factor into discipleship through service with students?
Oh man, it completely breaks up their routine. Some of the times, some kids will say, "Hey, I'm a member of Key Club or something like that. I need to get this many service hours."
Yeah.
And they'll say, "What are some things that we can do?" And I'll just have a list of things that we're going to be doing throughout the year. Some of the things that we do are very hands-on. Some of the things are simple as writing cards, but I try to provide enough things, at least once a month where we're doing something for somebody. And I think it's super important. I think it's super important to.
The fun thing about youth ministry is when a parent comes to you and says, "I don't think we're doing enough for this involvement or outreach or this service projects. We need more." and coming from last episode,
Yeah.
your kid was at the sporting events while we've been doing all of these service projects. We have an entire week during the summer where we have the Decatur work camp. We do stuff once a month, and all these different events. But I don't think people really understand really what a service project looks like, how easy it can be as far as packing the backpacks or providing food close to Christmas. Or for us, we also do a widowers dinner with the youth group, and we just come and we hang out with them. We'll serve them the food. We'll get them whatever they're drinking for that night, and then we just sit down and hang out. Something as simple as that is also a service project.
Yeah, one of the things that we did a few years ago, we went to Huntsville to the Rose of Sharon Soup Kitchen. And essentially it's, what you expect or what you're thinking of as a soup kitchen. It provides meals for the homeless. And our students got to come in and help with the preparation of this meal and help serve, literally scooping food onto plates, right? And then helping clean up at the end. But it got them out of the normalcy of what they see in Coleman on a day-to-day basis and getting them into a bigger city where they experience maybe the idea of homelessness in a different way than they thought it looked like. And they get to have conversations. And we did a little devotional with the people who came for lunch. And it was so impactful on, the students that went that day. I think when we get them out of their normal and we put them in a place that makes them a little bit uncomfortable, I think it makes such an impact on them.
Yeah.
There's a reason that when we go on a mission trip, we don't often look for the most posh hotel, right?
Right.
We put them on the floor on air mattresses and sleeping bags, right? Because we want them to experience, this is not my normal life. I'm doing something countercultural right now.
Right.
And I'm following in the steps of Jesus.
Yeah.
When they realized how blessed they are,
Yeah.
they get to these places and they see the way people are living, and they realize, my life's not that tough.
Yeah.
I might have been putting my parents through a lot, or I might not be the best Christian right now. I need to make sure that I step that up and I change how I view things.
I know when we did, we went to Houston and we did the mission trip with Beltline one year, and one of the students that was with me, we went to go pick up the kid from their house. They weren't outside waiting. Usually they're always waiting outside, but we went and knocked on the door to make sure that they were still coming. And I remember the door opening, and they did not have a floor in their house.
Yeah.
Like it was just dirt. And they had a little place over in the kitchen where they had some plywood that had been nailed onto the floor. And these kids were like 8 and 10 years old or so. And just seeing that and I was just completely caught off guard by seeing that. I mean, I was like, people don't live like that in the United States, Yeah. And when I did that, I was just like, wow. And it's just 2 normal kids, that are just, they love life and they're there and they're excited to see us, gave us big hugs, and we put them on the bus, and we got, and when we got back to the hotel and we were talking about our experience for the day, one of the students actually brought that up and said that was the thing that was the most impactful for me was I go home to a house that stays, 70 degrees all day forever, and I have blankets if I get cold, and I have all the clothes that I could ever need, and I don't have to worry about my shoes getting messed up in my house, But having to wear shoes in your house is a whole different concept of that,
Let's talk about trips when we go intentionally out of town for service, okay? Mm-hmm. That looks different in all different ways, depending on what you're doing. But one of the things that I think is most important on those kind of trips is at the end of the day, that kind of recap conversation.
Yes.
What happened? Tell me about, Michael, when you've done that on mission trips and things like that. What does that recap look like?
I had kind of like a thing that I followed after our mission trip in Houston. We would always do stuff. One of the things was I just want you to just understand the first day that we're there. I just want you to look at the kids and know they look like normal kids. Everything's fine. Everything's good. But then when we go see their house in the morning, because they would come on Sunday night, we'd meet them, and then on Monday morning we would go into to the neighborhoods and we would go pick them up in the buses. But to see the way that they live and what they consider as normal,
right.
And so when we're working with them at the church and we're doing stuff with the VBS and little fun events that we have for them in the mornings, and we go through reading classes, they're disruptive, they're interrupting everything, they're being crazy, they're not listening to instructions, they're not doing anything. But by the end of the week, it seems like they've started listening and they've started doing things and they've started, that routine has kind of come into practice. But that's the first thing is just recognize where they're coming from. One of them is, let them know that you love them, and sometimes that goes really well and sometimes it didn't. We had one kid who just said, "Hey man, Darius, I just want you to know I love you, man." And Darius said, "Man, get away from me! I don't." And he didn't talk to it. He didn't talk to him the rest of the week.
Oh,
like
Darius.
he was just like stranger danger.
What's Darius doing now?
There's no telling. But that was a really funny one. But then the last one is telling them that you love them, and saying goodbye, and that was kind of the last night. I don't remember the other nights, but those are the ones that kind of stick out to me. But those discussions really help, especially when you're doing it with the whole group. They all are answering these questions and describing their experience to the other students. And that's huge because it gives different perspectives and everything.
Well, and Hunter, like how, when something goes awry, something doesn't go the way that you thought it was going to go, how important is the debrief with students after the bad thing happened that day?
Right, it's very important, and things go awry a lot, especially in youth ministry. But it allows them to allows the students to open up and kind of talk to each other. And I know we've mentioned that a lot lately, but really talk to each other about really what's happened, what they've experienced, what's going on, and how that's really going to change them in the long run of things.
And there's some encouragement too for them going, "Oh man, that made you uncomfortable too." Yeah. Like I was nervous too. Yeah. I was there. One of the things
I think they get nervous anytime that they do something out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
A couple, might have been last summer, 2 summers ago, we all went together and went to one of the schools in Coleman.
Yeah, it was either Fairview or
I think it was Fairview.
Holly
I think it was Fairview. And we went to Fairview, and even
year.
like some of my kids were nervous about that. Some of my kids were nervous about the field day that we had at
Child Haven.
Yeah, and I mean they were nervous about that. I was like, guys, we're just going to hang out and play games and have fun.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but we don't know those people. I'm like, yeah, but all of the other youth groups are going to be there. But there are going to be people there that we don't know.
Yeah.
And then they get back on the bus, like, hey guys, did y'all meet anybody new? Like they're like, oh yeah, we met, and they're naming everybody. I'm like, okay, well, it turned out that you really enjoyed it and you had a lot of fun. And maybe it's just us just kind of pushing them off that edge of, hey, it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially in Christianity.
God calls us to be uncomfortable. Yeah.
One of my favorite questions to ask during those end of the day recap, debrief, whatever, and I never know where the conversation is going to go, honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes really well. Sometimes it's a short conversation, right? But I say, so where did you see God at work today? Where did you see God moving in the work you were doing today? And hearing the students, kind of respond to that and what things they perceived as God being present in this service that we're doing, right? It's interesting sometimes hearing that. And then some of my adults will chime in and give some thoughts that they had about something they saw. We just got back from a trip this weekend and we had that conversation, talking about how the lessons went and what they learned. And I said, where was God at in that today? Where'd you see him? And one of the parents said, I've got this picture that I took that there was an old couple walking out of the restaurant we were eating dinner at, and 2 of our students immediately jumped up and they opened up the double doors, and made this big, like, we're serving you. And she said, I took a picture of you guys doing that, because it meant a lot to me because I saw God at work through this service moment, even it was just opening a door.
And it wasn't part of the mission trip.
No, it had nothing to do with the trip.
Yeah. It was just,
well, and when you make serving a regular thing, those small gestures don't mean a whole lot. Or as far as to that person, to the person that's serving, it's just a normal thing. It's not anything out of the ordinary. They're not going out of their way to fly across the country and do something, but it's just they're just there to help. They're just there to be nice, be Christ-like.
Let me tell you guys a story real quick. Do you mind hitting the way back for me for just a second?
Yeah, I can do that. Give me just one second.
Let me get this thing.
Here we go.
Back from the past.
Let's see.
Oh, you don't know which button? Oh, there it is. So this is Black Mountain, North Carolina. This is years back. This is probably 10 years ago for me. We were on a mission trip. We had gone, and the plan was to go and to work on this church building, which was essentially a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that they owned. And they were having worship in the auditorium, which was the 2-car garage that had been closed in. And so it was a little small community church there that we're meeting with, and our plan was to work on their church building during the day, go do a couple little service things in town, go to some nursing homes, and then at night do a VBS for all the kids in the community. So we went knocking doors, and we invited kids. We put up flyers, we did all this, and 2 kids came. 2 kids. But we had 13 adults with some sort of developmental disabilities from a local community center that showed up for our VBS. And so all of our 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders, we're all like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what do we do? And I just, I pulled them over to the side. I said, we're running VBS, guys. Do it. They're excited to be here. And so we ran VBS, right?
Yeah.
And then that night, we went back we were staying at the YMCA there, and we got back to the cabin, and I said, hey, let's just address the elephant in the room. The trip that we came here with and that we planned is not the trip that we're doing now. Yeah. And so for the rest of the week, we had this service week where we served adults with special needs, right? And our kids in no way were prepped for that. We're ready for that.
Yeah.
But it was incredible to see God work through this little twist in the plan to make our students see something in a different way. And to this day, multiple of those students that I still have communication with talk about that trip more than the time that they went to the City of Children in Ensenada, Mexico, or more than the time, they think about that trip where they spent a whole week doing VBS for 13 adults, right? But it moved something in them, and it made them have a desire for doing something when they come back. A lot of times I think our long way trips, they're short-term missions, and we think, well, did we really make a difference? Yeah, you did some good things for that local community and that church. But what's incredible is when your kids come back with a servant mentality and they go back to their normal day-to-day routines with a different perspective about what it means to be Jesus' hands and feet in their life then.
That made me remember something, and I'm going to hit the Wayback Machine again.
Go ahead, take us back.
Let's go back real quick. So we all had gone to Houston, and we had done our mission trip, and it was the very last night. We had finished everything, and we had our last night Devo, and then at 6 a.m. we were going to leave and head home. And we went out by the ocean. We were staying right on the ocean. We went out to the ocean, and we sat by this big lighthouse that they had out there, really cool place. And we were just singing. And while we were singing, right before this all, we sang, and then right before I started speaking, I just said, hey, our mission trip's over, but just want you to know that the mission trip's not over. You're going to go into the world, and so we kind of did that, and I said, but our mission trip here is over. We're done. We're going to leave in the morning, and kind of encouraging them, thanking them for what they did. Give a little short lesson, and then we started singing for another 15 or so minutes. And whenever we finished up, people started clapping. And we were I was looking around trying to figure out who was clapping. And I assumed that it was the other group that we were there with, but it wasn't. And I looked over and they said, hey, are y'all part of some singing group or what are you? That was beautiful. And I said, no, we're just a church. We just came out here to worship together. It's our youth group. And they said, well, can y'all come up here and sing some more? We want to hear you sing some more. And so we ended up, we went up there and we sang, and they said that they had kind of had some hard times, and they were selling their house and all this stuff. And they said we just thought that those songs were very encouraging and stuff. And as soon as we said, well, we need to start getting back to the house, and we need to get packed up and everything. And they were like, well, thank y'all so much for everything you did for us. And they said, hey, before you leave, hold on just a second. And they left, and they came back. They gave us $100 bill and said, give this to the thing that y'all came here to help with, the mission trip that y'all are doing here, and we'll be praying for you on all that. Just cool. Strangers. And as soon as we started walking off, my wife, she said, we thought the mission trip was over, but it wasn't. And she said, that's what Michael just talked about. This mission trip is not over. This is something that we will take into our lives, and we will continually take this into our lives, and it should be a part of our normal everyday life. It's doing things like this.
Well, and we realize that the mission trip is never over. The service project is never over. It just changes.
Yes.
And kind of what you're getting at, we're challenging youth ministers and parents to make sure that kids understand that they can find small ways to serve daily. They can find small ways to be that mission or that do that service project in somebody else's lives, teaching kids to be aware of the needs that are around them and the things that they're doing in their everyday lives, to notice what's going on and to be present and to be active and to always be looking and searching for what's next and the new things that they can serve.
Yeah. And, I think one good thing that we can do to really get them thinking that way, if you're not able to do big mission trips or a big work camp trip or, these big trips, you can get them involved in things in the church. If you have some form of worship team that you put together each Sunday, you have the guy that comes around and he says, here's who's doing this, that person that puts all that stuff together, you have opportunities to help with those. You can get the teens involved in leading singing. Jeremy was telling me about one of his students who led the entire service, right? A whole Sunday morning service. That's awesome, and finding people who can help with the audio visual stuff, the microphones. We have one of our students that does that and does a great job with it. And
we had one of ours last month, Nolan Eccles, one of our boys, led communion thoughts, and honestly, probably one of the best jobs I've heard, including grown men, of doing communion thoughts in a long time.
Yeah. Nolan's great.
Is he? How's his knee?
He had surgery, and so we're in the after surgery healing process. And he did miss our Winterfest trip this weekend because
I need to reach out to him.
I actually said, dude, if you will go, I will push you in a wheelchair all weekend to everything.
And for those that aren't caught up, he is the kid that tore his knee skiing a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jumping the hills.
Yeah. Oh, and also for churches, allow the teens to be involved in as a greeter.
Oh,
because it's one thing to have your older members, or we'll just say members in general, be greeters and they're greeting people. But it's another thing to have a family walk in, a mom and dad and a couple of teens, and have a teen sitting there waiting to greet them.
Yeah,
and to be able to take them to their class and show them where they need to go. They can really benefit from that as themselves, but the church can benefit from that as well.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I thought was cool last year was we developed what they're calling the marketing team for our church. And so this is just a group of members. They put together a team that's trying to figure out how do we communicate out to the community, things that are going on, and invite people to things, whatever. And they asked one of the teens that was pretty active on Instagram to be a part of the marketing team and give advisement on how to communicate social media type stuff about whatever's going on with church. It was just a cool thing to say, we value your opinion and you could be of service in our church and you could serve in this way. So, finding ways to draw them in it's important. So, Hunter, do you have any awesome stories you'd like to take us in the Wayback Machine?
We can go in the Wayback Machine. Go on.
Seize every opportunity.
I'm sure every church does this, but they have some sort of random acts of kindness card. And you tell the church, hey, go into your community, and when you do something random or this random act of kindness, you hand them the card. It has the church's information on it and things on those lines. Back when I was at Buford, middle school maybe, we had a college kid come back home from college, and he was giving the Wednesday night devotional, and he was telling the story about how he got in the line at some fast food restaurant, and the preacher was in front of him. And he did not know this. The preacher did not know that he was behind him, and he paid for his meal and gave the card. And when he got up there, he said, hey, whoever's in front of you, they paid for your meal, and they gave me this card to give you. And he was like, man, I've only been at college for, a semester. I can't believe he's already forgotten about me. And the preacher had no idea that he actually knew who he was, but the preacher didn't know who was behind him. He was just doing a random act of kindness.
Yeah.
But it's something as simple as that, and silly stuff like that will happen along the lines. But it's just showing just at random times that there is kindness in the world. And it goes a lot farther than just the immediate kindness that we see or the immediate mission trips we go on or the service projects, but it leads to people remembering who you are.
Well, let me say this, and I think if it's okay if I start to wind us down, if y'all got more, it's okay, just shut me up. But I think that one of the things we've got to mention, if we're going to talk about discipling students through service, when Jesus discipled those that were following after him, he showed them how to do something. He worked alongside them and did it with them. And then he said, now you go do, right? We have to create that model of teaching or of modeling it ourselves first, and then working alongside our students and then enabling them to go do. The last things that we hear from Jesus is go out into the world and do the work, right? Go out and serve and to express the gospel and baptize those. But one of the things that I think we need to do is find opportunities that our students can see us serving, not because we want to be on a pedestal or to get recognition or whatever, but because they need to see us being servants too. One of the simple things that you can do is when there's a meal, whatever devotional you're having some kind of get together or meal, is to you yourself go scoop the ice in the cups and ask every kid, hey, what do you want to drink? And pour the drink.
Yeah.
Something as simple as them seeing you as their waiter, right? The person who's supposed to be in charge is actually putting themselves in a place of service, modeling that John 13 mentality so that they see that and they in turn desire to pursue that kind of thing in their own life.
Yeah, I always will clean up after them. So they'll leave stuff, and I make sure to clean up after them and do it in a way that's not just like helping clean up. Just being that example of this is just what I do. This is what we do.
It's a way to give back to the kids. They've, the other day we had our widowers dinner, and I cleaned up after, and people were like, oh, why are you doing that? It's like, well, the kids volunteered to come here. They served the drinks. They helped out. They did everything they were supposed to. And now it's my turn to give back. And to where they can go home, they can go get their homework done, whatever they have to do that evening, and they don't have to sit around and clean up. I'll spend the 20 minutes cleaning up.
Right.
Yeah. We did we have a Kids Give ministry that we've started the last couple of years, and we just did a big spaghetti dinner for the whole church, from that money that we collected. It was a really cool deal. And me and my wife and our kids and everybody, we all stayed after and cleaned up afterwards. And so we didn't do that for any reason other than, there were students there that they needed to help with us, and they helped clean up some stuff too. But that was just a really, just a here's what we do thing. It wasn't,
One of my previous coworkers, Gary Johnson, who great job in youth ministry. Gary, he said to me one time, talking about retreats, he was kind of taking me under his wing and teaching me some things and helping me learn as I got started with some things there at the congregation. And he said, man, I hate to tell you this, but you're the guy in charge. He said, you're the youth minister. You're the one that leads everything. You're the example that, you should be setting. He said, you're the last guy to go to bed, and you're the first one up on a retreat. He said, you're the guy that needs to be in the kitchen making coffee for the other adults when they wake up. He said, you're supposed to be the model example of service so that the students know how to serve. He said, that's the role that you've been cast in, and so you have to take it serious. So I would say, to anybody listening to this, man, you got to put your own feet to, you got to put your own self into the work, and you've got to get involved, and you've got to be the one that's leading and modeling this. Put your own hands to the plow so that the students see that and they know what it looks like and they follow after it.
Yeah. Well, we hope that this discussion on service and the importance of service in your ministry has been a good discussion. I hope that you've learned from it. And this is a very important thing. This was kind of Jesus's whole purpose in this, was to come and serve, even to serving all the way to death, And so keep that in your mind and everything when you're working with your students and discipling them in service. Thank y'all so much for listening today, and I'm just grateful for each one of you that listens, for each one of you that interacts with some of our social media things, makes comments. Jackson Vargas made a comment on one of our shows. Shout out to Jackson.
What a guy. We're gonna get him in ministry too. He doesn't know that yet.
Yeah,
we're working hard on that.
He's the man. But definitely getting that stuff set up with service is important. So check out our website, oksyouthministry.com. If you have any questions, email us at oksyouthministry@gmail.com. Check out our website, check out our socials, and who knows, if you comment or say something or leave a review or whatever, we could talk about it in the show. So we definitely want you to ask some questions because we want to get that questions and answers segment going.
And if you've got any complaints, just send those to Hunter.
Yeah. Hunter
That's fine.
Puckett no, I don't know what your email is. So
I don't know what my email is, so it's okay. We hope your ministry is blessed. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to us.
Thanks for joining us today in the important conversation of youth ministry. Go and follow us on Instagram and check out oksyouthministry.com for more information about our upcoming episodes. We'll be dropping a new episode every Wednesday morning, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. And hey, it's okay to be the OKS youth minister around, but let's all strive to be just a little bit better.